Yeah.
From the clothing.
Yeah.
No, even when they take you to take babies and things, they mark you.
It was marked like last night.
No.
Just before.
But that's all I'm doing now. When I came home Sunday night, I just put the whole place and everybody in it, and I just said to the Grand Council that we all be protected, and that anything that may have been promised in another time, another space, be cleared for all, because we've got to get on with our work. And also I was told that we all come from different planets at different times, from different times, and we're all here as the nucleus to be awakened for the work that we're about to do to lift the consciousness of this planet, which John has been talking about. So if that helps anybody. And how we work for the biggest and the best company. The biggest boss, how can they get us? They can't. Thank you.
That's wonderful. I want to assure you we are protected here. They have no power at all, but we have to ask and pray, decree for the protection that we would want to have in whatever way is real and meaningful to you. If we don't ask, we won't get. And this is where we need to do. Debs.
For a talker, I find it quite difficult to speak sometimes. What John is saying about praying, and what, I can't remember the lady's name that was up here, Karen was saying, is precisely true. We asked to break. Now the reason that this lass is having problems has just got one small, tiny attachment is called fear. And with that fear, she's an inline constantly. So all I can say to you is that you must put the fear aside. And I'll give you an example of how I put the fear aside. I became enlightened enough to know that I made those decisions. It was my choice. I can break it. I asked for these things. I made that commitment. I can move it. I'm creating my reality constantly. And therefore, when I see a light, I don't get frightened of it. I just more or less say, wow, you're there. What big deal? No big deal about it. And just keep reaffirming your God self and your God consciousness, and keep changing your reality to the God consciousness constantly, because that's the only way. I've never had mine taken out, by the way. I've never had my implants physically taken out. But I must just tell you this one tiny thing. When I first met John, I was the most resistant person you ever did see in all your life. I was incredibly resistant. I mean, overwhelmingly resistant. I could see aurically that this man came from a very good space. And when I made the commitment to body electronics on the third week or the first day, I went deaf. Completely deaf, as Wayne will tell you, in my left ear. I was deaf for 2.5 to 3 months, completely deaf. My implant is in my left ear. And therefore I found it very difficult to have to overcome that. And I have overcome it. I plan on not being deaf to anything spiritual ever again.
Thank you. Now there's one other person here that has some knowledge that we can all benefit from, and I want you to feel free to share it at this time, especially pertaining to last night. Last night? Who? Trudy, did you raise your hand?
I did, but it doesn't pertain to last night, John.
Well,
But in regard to...
you come on up here. And David will be following you up.
I just want to go back to when Nico and I were talking to Steve the other day, and he made mention of a session that he had with a person where he got in contact with one of these beings, and how the process he goes through and all the things that came out of the session. And when he went to let go of this entity and this person, he was actually talking to it, and it said that it didn't want to go back. And when he actually got down to tin tack, this poor entity is having the same problems that we do here on earth of being controlled and manipulated. And instantly at that stage I felt nothing but love, pure love for this poor being who is in the same situation as we are here on this earth. So at that point I felt, well, there's nothing to be fearful of because these guys are in the same place and they need to be released just as much as what we do. So just let go of the fear.
Thank you. David, did you have your hand up or are you just scratching?
Not from last night, but from the...
Come up, sir. Don't move, I'll call on you.
Thank you. The point holding of the night that we first discussed implantation and abduction, Molly and I drove off back to the motel where we're staying at in Yankovara, and it was late. I think it must have been after 11. And as I was driving along, I felt tremendous, my hair was standing up a little bit at the back of the head, but I tried to dismiss that as hallucination by what we'd been talking about. And then we got back to the motel, and when we got into the lights of Yankovara, that sort of disappeared quite a lot. And I had to, we had a little torch at that time, and I had to use the torch to unlock the key to get into the motel door. It was dark. There were no lights on. It was quite dark. And we got in, and we went off to sleep. And about, I think it must have been about 2:30 or thereabouts, I had my first STO points held, and my head was on fire a bit. But when I woke up, my head had disappeared into a blaze of light, and there was no wall behind me. Now, there is a wall behind me. And I got up, and I listened, and I looked out through the curtains, that are light gauze curtains, and there was a little steep white light that we'd just been discovering about surrounding the whole place. So I went back to bed, and I lay down in bed, and I immediately invoked the protection of Saint Germain and beloved Jesus Christ, and I was still aware of the light above me, but I all the time kept, in a mantra-like fashion, even visualizing the violet flame light surrounding both Mary and myself, who was lying alongside me. She was oblivious to it all. But I was in a state of nervous anticipation. It was a sort of a fear that could become an unreasoning fear if I succumbed to it. But this I dismissed as fear. That was at that particular point in time. Now, I would also like to say that the Grand Council of the Elohim and Jesus Christ and Saint Germain are with us here in no uncertain measure. And that's all we have to think about and see this to overcome any other extraneous opposition activities, which will try to wreck anything that we do, and will pick, if there's fear, they will pick on the fear and work on the fear. And that's all the only thing that we have to be that we have to be aware of is that there is such a thing as fear, and it is the direct opposition to love. Immediately we think of pure and unconditional love, that overcomes the fear. Then we can, without reason, combat any other factor. This is what I believe, anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth?
I'm quite nervous just even talking about this, but the same night when we first heard about these ships down here, which I think was the second night of point holding, and I just thought, okay, I have a bit of fear around this, and I just need to continually call in the light. And it sort of first started when Desley started to talk about her experiences with the being abducted, and I was really asleep before that. I was really doped out. As soon as she started to talk, I just woke up and had to sit up, and I could see exactly what she was talking about, the babies and the whole thing, and I shared that with her later and said, is there a movie about this or whatever? You can sort of hear the nervousness. And I've been sitting there thinking I won't share this, but I felt I had to come and start to speak about it. So anyway, that night after the point holding, I hadn't slept for about 3 nights since I got here. And I just knocked myself, I slept really, really well, and then I woke up out of a very dead sleep, and I was just frozen on the bed, and I just thought, and the birds were going, I didn't know what they were. I thought it was an animal. It was just very, very strong. And I was really scared. And I wake up most nights, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever, and go to the toilet. I've done that for ages. And I just, I'm not really afraid. And I was really, really scared. And I thought, this is the talk from the talk last night. So I lied in bed for a while and just called in the white light. And I thought, I can't stay here. I have to go to the toilet. And I also have to overcome this fear. So I couldn't actually look outside. I just knew I couldn't.